Welcome to the Acts of Faith podcast. We're your host. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Shannon. We know how hard it can be to step out in faith and do what God is asking of you. There are so many challenges that we can face and can hold us back from walking in God's plan.
We want to encourage you to take that step of faith. Here, we will share stories big and small in hopes of inspiring you to answer your call. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Hanny Acevedo. Hanny shares about how God asked her to trust that He was going to pull her out of her postpartum depression. She shares what this looked like for her, her family, and also the hope that God gave her. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are joined by our friend, Hanny Acevedo. She is a mom, a wife, a former drama and family counselor. She grew up in Puerto Rico, so Spanish is actually her first language. She loves homeschooling, and she loves sourdough. That's it.
Most days I do. Yeah, I love homeschooling.
Most days she loves homeschooling.
Yeah.
Not every day, people.
Some days,
Not every day.
I'm going to ship them to boarding school. There you go.
And how many
Come back.
do you have to homeschool again?
I have 3 boys.
3.
They're 9, 6, and 3.5.
Oh,
And we have been homeschooling ever since. They've never been in public or private school. But they're in a co-op now where they go to a co-op twice a week, which is really nice because they get to be with other kids and other teachers can pour into them, which I love. And it gives me a little bit of a break. And yeah, they really enjoy it. So we're doing that now.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you can do sourdough and do this.
I love doing sourdough. Yes. And this is so fun. I'm so happy to be here. It's so cool that you guys are doing this because I know your agendas are super full. So taking time to do this, it makes me think of the preaching on Sunday where Pastor Daryl was talking about testimonies, and I feel like this is a platform for that. This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're allowing people to tell their story so they can encourage others. So super cool. So I'm happy to be here. And I'm not nervous at all. I'm just like holding my hands really tight. You cannot see us, but I'm like, ah.
Even though she is a podcast queen, she used to have a podcast for homeschooling, so she's
Yeah.
actually you're used to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's done this
It's fun.
before.
Yeah,
This
fun.
is not new to
But
her.
sometimes when it's about you, it's like, ooh.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah. But we're glad you're here. We're
Yeah,
glad you said yes. So thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for thinking of me because this is an
And
honor.
it's an honor for us to be able to host you.
You.
You might hear, since she is a homeschool mom, she does have her children here today because mom life, sometimes it goes as planned and sometimes it doesn't. So if you hear little voices in the background,
They're there.
that's 2 of her beautiful children, and they are wonderful, and we're glad that they're here too. So
Thank you.
Well, Hanny, we wanted to ask you, when was the time that God called you to step out in faith?
Yeah. I was thinking about it, and I think maybe a lot of people that come here, they say this, like there's so many moments where God is like, even in daily life. But we moved here in 2021 from Seattle. Me and my husband, we've been married for almost 15 years, which is insane. We've known each other since high school, where we met when we were like 15. So, and we're gonna be.
Congratulations on 15 years.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
awesome.
okay.
He just turned 40 and I'm turning 40, and so it's like, what, we've known each other more than that, and so
Yes.
it's kind of crazy.
Yes.
So yeah, we moved here, and that was a whole step of faith as well because I did not want it to leave Seattle. I was like, this is home forever, and so that took a lot of submitting my desires to the Lord, and I've seen Him work so much. But I was thinking, and when you guys asked, the first thing that I was telling Stephanie that came to mind was when I had my first son. He's 9. And when I was 14, I was diagnosed with PCOS. And I was told literally by this doctor, and I could still even smell the room. Like I could see the doctor. She said that I was never going to be able to have babies, just like that. And I had just become a Christian at that time because I think I was in 10th grade. So I was about to turn 15. And I said, I think God can do it. Like, I think God can. And she's like, not even God can help you. So I was like, oh, great. This is a great start of my faith journey. Here you go. Not even God can help. And so I kind of like went through my teen years and my adulthood until I got married at 25, thinking that it was going to be really hard, you know?
Wow.
My mom had 5 miscarriages. And so I was like, well, that maybe that will happen to me, or maybe I will never be able to have kids. And I remember when you asked my mom what I wanted to be when I was a little girl, it was a mom. Like that was kind of like my answer. Like and I remember like that's what I played, and I think a lot of little girls do. But I know that was kind of like really important for me, and so when we decided to have kids, it was not happening. And because of PCOS, they tend to put women on metmorphin, which is kind of a medication that helps regulate your insulin levels and da da da. And so that helps with your endocrine system. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't, I felt like God was saying, would you trust me with this part of your life, Which was really hard.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I tend to be like, what can I do to make this happen? And I will do it. Tell me all the lists and I will follow the list. I will do the things and I will make it happen. So not doing that and taking that kind of a backseat and allowing God to do it was not easy by any means. And it was not a long time either. It was not like we were trying. I know some people do like years and years, but it was almost 2 years. And that felt, I don't know, especially with the fear in the back of your head telling you like, this is not going to happen. You're never going to be able to do this. But then we got pregnant. And I know we got pregnant without anything. Like God was just
Other assistant.
so good.
You
Yeah.
immediately call the doctor and be like, see, I told you
I know.
I would do this.
I know.
Yeah.
Right? I should have. Because that, I mean,
You had faith bigger than fear.
which,
Yeah.
it's not always the case. But in that moment, I was like, I need to trust that God's going to do it. Because what is the alternative? What is the alternative when you are faced with these situations where there's nothing you can do? And you need to literally let God make a way and work with something that there's nothing, right? Because there's nothing I can give God. Like, here, God, like, I will offer this for a child, it's just really submitting my fear and my emotions. And so, but at that time, I didn't know it, but I was not only growing a baby. Things were going to get like hard. I had I love being pregnant. It was awesome. But then my delivery was really tough. I had 72 hours of labor, which was,
That sounds terrible.
Oh my gosh.
it was. It was exactly how it sounds. Like it was just, I didn't know it, but I had prodromal labor, which is like you start having all these contractions, but things don't move along. And so I was in a lot of pain. We tried all the things. I was at a birth center. They did like, my legs up, like all the drinks, castor oil, you name it. We tried it. And after 72 hours, I was so exhausted. So we transferred to the hospital and they had to do a section there. And it was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. It was horrible. I worked so hard to have a natural birth. Like I did all these things. I took care of myself. I ate right. I did this and that, all the things that I thought like, oh, it'd be great. Like I'm going to just get to the birth center, pop this baby out, go back home, and it'll be great. The things that you don't know. You don't know until you know. And so after having him, it's so painful for me to like verbalize this, but it was almost like someone has gotten a baby and giving it to me. Like I was like, I don't know who this baby, like there was no connection. And it's really hard because being a therapist, I didn't know it yet, but I was it was starting the depression and the anxiety and the suicide ideation, all of that. And I didn't want to recognize it. I remember, you know how they do those like follow-ups where you go to your doula and they do like a little like evaluation where it's like, where you are, how are your emotions? Is it only baby blues? Da, da, da. And I remember lying. I was like, I cannot accept this. Like, what does it say about me? Like, I'm the one that helps people. I had just opened my private practice. I was seeing clients. When I got pregnant, I started my private practice in Seattle. So I was seeing clients. I'm like, if I'm like dealing with this, what does this say about me, And which is a lie. It's a complete lie because
Yes.
Yeah.
doctors get sick, right? Like they do, and they are doctors. We're
Mhm.
not exempt. But I was like in a very, very dark place in that time. I remember one night specifically where I told my husband, I can't do this anymore. I just, I looked at him and like, I'm done because I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating. The baby was waking up every 30 minutes, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I don't know how to describe it. And it's interesting because before this, theoretically, I knew depression and anxiety, right? Because
Right.
it's like you are in school 4 years and this is all you're
Mhm.
learning. But I had suffered from panic attacks in the past, but this level of hopelessness I had never experienced before. And I don't think we talk enough about it, especially in the context of perinatal, like postpartum, because the idea is that you need to be so happy and in love with this baby. Like you have even desired this baby so much. How can you be feeling like this? And so all those thoughts were in my head, like, I need to love my baby, which I did, but it's just there was a darkness over me that I felt things were not gonna get better. Like, I could not imagine a moment where I wasn't gonna feel like that, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And so, I remember the one thing that 2 things that supported me during that time was the word of God, and I wanted to share one verse because if you are listening and you're like, "I am there," and it's hard to share as a believer that you'd suffer from mental health because I don't know why we think that that's a sin or that that says something about our relationship with God, that we're not doing it right or that people are going to judge us. But I think that when we think about Jesus, even in Calvary, right? Like when he was there, he was anxious and depressed and he was in a state of sorrow and pain about what was going to happen. And so I think sometimes we think we're exempt from that. Like we shouldn't. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And that means that there are gonna be moments where we're not gonna have strength, And
Yeah.
so
Right.
we're gonna need his strength. And so this was one verse. Um it's Isaiah 40:31 that says, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." And this is a verse that God gave me early, like I was probably like 16 or 17. Like, you're gonna run, you're gonna feel like you're running out of breath, but you're not, because I'm gonna sustain you. And that verse came to mind like rushing to my head and during that season. And I think the act of faith that had to happen in that moment was to trust that God was going to take me out of there because I could not see an exit. I I couldn't see an exit. I couldn't see me experiencing joy again or loving my life again. Um, and I had to trust that God was going to do it even when I couldn't see it. And I think that's what faith is and obedience is, right? Like it's trusting that God on the other side has something better that we cannot see it. And the Israelites, when we think about them, it's like, oh, they were so like, doubtful. And I'm like, we are the same. We're literally, because I could not, and I tried all these things, um, to accept therapy because I was like, I'm not going to go to a therapist because I am just,
Because I am a therapist.
I
Yeah.
know, right? So I was like, and it took me a year to realize, oh, I do need, because I was for a whole year, I was in that state.
So that's one of the challenges in trusting that God had something for you on the other side and that He was
Mhm.
going to pull you through this
Yeah.
dark time
Yeah.
is just really kind of putting back
Mhm.
that because you are a therapist,
Yeah.
that you didn't need to go to get
Yeah.
help, or that because you would go to get help, that people
Right.
would view you
Right.
differently.
Right. So in
Wow.
both sides. So it makes me think I'm doing this book for Lent called 40 Days of Decrease. And one of the things that she talks about is self cannot satisfy self, right? And I think we think so much. And in the therapy world, this is so prominent, which is you think that you can get yourself out of here and you have it in you.
Yeah.
All that you need is within you, and you just have to dig a little deeper, and you'll find the strength to pull yourself up your bootstraps and get better, right? And so that's a temptation of use what you have, what you think you have, instead of what God's offering for you. And I realized that I needed to choose. Am I going to trust in my knowledge, what I think is going to work, or am I going to trust that God Himself is going to take me out of here? Because He doesn't promise that we're not. It's Isaiah 2 talks about going through the fire and you will not get burned, right? And so I think what I learned in that season, and even the other postpartums that I had, is that I cannot just my faith cannot be based on how my body feels. You know, my emotions lie. My even how and it's not that we're not feeling all these things, we are, but if we're not turning our focus to Him and what He can do, then we get consumed by that, and we tend to forget what He has done or what He has promised, right? Because our emotions are so real. They're in real time, right? Like the miracle is in the future, the testimony is in the past, and your emotions are right here. And you're like, well, I know He did that, and I know He promised this, but this is where I'm at. And so one thing that was so pivotal during that moment for me to like get out of there, and I think, it's what God calls us to, was community, was people coming and talking about being obedient with their own lives and being there for others. Like my bedroom, because I would not get out of my bedroom. I would get outside, take showers, go back in bed. Like that was it. They will sit at the edge of my bed and just pray for me and just tell me like, you will get out of this. I was there. Look where I am. And I be honest, I will be like, I don't believe you. I'm seeing her. I'm like, I know you have kids. I know you're here. I know. But I'm like, I do not know how that it's going to happen, and I think that's the faith, right? Like it's the space between where you're at and where God says you need to be. And that gap, it's your faith. And it doesn't have to be that big. The Bible talks about being small as a grain of, and I think what happens when your faith, or when my faith was so small that I didn't think God could take me out of that despair, was that all these friends were feeding that faith, by me seeing them like just on the other side of their struggle and them encouraging me to trust that God could do it. That in itself was just so powerful, for me to trust that He could do it. And for me to, I think the obedience also comes in not giving up, because it's so easy to, when these things face you, for you to like completely give up. And not only, I'm not talking about only like suicide, right? I'm talking about just giving up in your mind and in your emotions and just shutting down, right? Shutting down in your relationship with your husband, shutting down in your relationship with God. And I had to fight that during that year every single day. Like I literally had to be like, what am I going to believe today? Am I going to believe how sad I am, or am I going to believe what God says about me? And there's another verse that was um really important for me. Let me see where I wrote it. Right here. It's Psalm 73:26. It says, my health might fail and my spirit might grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. And, there's something about the word of God. Like, I will encourage anybody listening, like, if you're in a time where you're like, I don't know how to obey God, in whatever it is, in a business endeavor, in a, trusting that He can heal you, go to His word, because the Bible says that His word in itself, it's enough to change us, to transform us, and it will really show you the way of, what you have to do, how you have to do it. Because obedience happens with little steps. Like I had to take one day at a time. I had to like just trust that today God will heal me a little more. Today God will sustain me a little more. And I'm the kind of person that I'm black and white. I don't like the process. I want the end. Please give me like
Yeah.
the 10 pounds less.
Yeah, right? I don't want to go through the trial, but it produces the testimony.
Yes.
It does.
Sure.
It does.
And when you look back, you're just so, I mean, I hear you, you have such a grateful heart about it
Oh,
all.
yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
And always God, like, it feels like, so all of that pouring into his word at the time and the people that showed up in your life and counseling, those were all what kind of got you through
Yeah.
this time, you
Yes.
would attribute.
Oh, 100%.
So
And my
that's,
husband.
so your
Yeah.
advice would be if you're going through a really difficult time,
Yeah.
find a verse to cling
Yep.
to, get into his word.
Yep.
Counselor,
Yeah.
did you have a Christian counselor?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And don't isolate. I think when
Yes.
we are struggling with obedience and we're struggling to do what the Lord has called us, and we feel that our faith is lacking or whatever, we tend to isolate,
Mhm.
especially with things like this. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want people to think that I'm not strong, that I don't got like all these things. And so you start to isolate and retreat
Mhm.
into a place, not like Jesus retreated to pray. No, we retreat to because we're ashamed, right? We're full of
Right.
shame and so when we do that, we, I think that's what the enemy wants.
Yes.
It
Yes.
really, when we are isolated, is we don't have all the vantage points to see what all the attacks are going to come from, right? And so when we have people with us, all these thoughts, our thoughts are so powerful. I remember thinking all these awful things. Like I had the worst thoughts during that time, and to read the word of God and then hear friends speak life, that was really, it was war, right? Like it was the war of my thoughts and my emotions that were so dark in the moment with this light that they were bringing. And I could have said, there were days that I was like, I don't want to see anybody.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Literally, I don't want to hear it. My husband had to remind me, like, you need to let people in your life right now because
Mhm.
there's no other way. There's no other way for you to and he had to go to work. Like he went to work like, I think a week after our baby was born.
Yeah.
And so I will find myself at home by myself. He had to check on me so much because I I really don't wish that on anybody. And so if you're struggling with this right now and you're like, I don't know how to obey that part that God's saying, trust me, I will heal you. I will restore your joy, to just find people that have been through this and find help, professional help, those two things, and cling to the word of God. And there's hope. And that's Jesus. He is our hope.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to forget during those times. But where are those dishes that you said?
You know,
Thanks.
it's when you were talking about isolating, and during these times, when you're feeling this way, the enemy, if you're isolating, all you're hearing
Yeah.
it are those lies that
Yeah.
the enemy's telling you, that you should know this, you should see these signs. You
Yeah.
can't go and get help because
Yeah.
then what will people think
Right.
about you?
Yeah.
Like people will say this or that. And when you're isolating, you don't have,
Mhm.
those outside, that community that
Mhm.
comes in and is like, no, that's a lie, to help you
Yeah.
identify those.
Yes.
And that's why getting in the word is important too,
Mhm.
so that you can see what God says about you and know that He's going to be
Yeah.
your strength, and that He does have a plan for you on the other side of it, because you can, like you
That's right.
said, feel so hopeless that there's
Mhm.
not um any other way out of
Yeah.
feeling that way. And I just think it was so wonderful that you're bringing this
Mm.
up and talking about it.
Mhm.
Um, it makes, I wish that when I was a kid that my mom had the support that you had,
Mm.
because growing up in the 90s, this was still
Mhm.
a very
Oh,
taboo
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You didn't have people talking about mental
Mm.
health and its importance. It was still looked at differently.
Yeah.
So my mom, sorry, mom, if you're listening, I'm sharing your story. But she didn't have people to come around her and support
Yeah.
her and give her these verses or just these encouraging words to
Mhm.
bring her through, which she was a believer at the time. But like you
Mhm.
said, during these really dark times, it's hard to see
Yeah.
that
Oh,
God
yeah.
has a plan on the other side for you.
Mhm.
And so just you talking about the community and the people that supported you, it just gets me so emotional because I just, I think it's so important and I'm so grateful for the people in your life who were
Yeah.
there for you during that time.
Yeah.
So that's just
And it would have been a huge misfortune not to allow those people to
Mhm.
bless you.
Yes.
yes.
I had an uncle that they really had to lean on their community when his wife was going through cancer.
Mm.
And somebody said to him, I'll never forget him. He said, "Don't." She said they were like bringing them meals every single night,
Mm.
pouring into them. She said, he was like, "Oh, I feel so bad making
Mm.
you guys like, come and support me in this way." She goes, "Don't
Mhm.
deny us all this
Yeah.
blessing
Yeah.
to be there, to be the light in someone's life
Mhm.
in their darkest days." I don't think there's like a more honorable place to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I mean, if you want to give a shout out to anybody that was there
Yeah.
during that
Right?
time, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm picturing you in your house and I'm
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
about who might have been there and what that might have
Yeah.
looked like. You just don't realize, like, and they would feel so honored to know that they were a
Yes.
part of the reason you're here today.
Yeah, we're still
Like,
friends to this day, which
yeah,
is you go through those things together and you become family.
yes.
Yeah.
People see you in your most vulnerable place,
hmm
and I think that was definitely an obedience part of the whole story as well, and an act of faith because I couldn't know that, yes, I knew community is important and we all know that, but until you're in these times,
Yeah.
you realize that it's life or death.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
literally like they will like my husband will be working and they will come in the middle of the day, bring food, sit and for me, my husband will say that whenever people are coming over, I get into Airbnb mode and I'm like, here, there, in all the
Yeah.
places. And he's like, do you think people are gonna go like this on the tables and be like, oh my goodness, she doesn't
Yeah.
clean here? I'm
That's
like,
what my husband
I'm
said. I love that he called it Airbnb mode.
oh yeah, he goes to that. Hold on. And so I am, whenever people are coming, I like clean everything. I put like diffuser and I put like a play which I could, like I just
Yes.
like doing that.
Yeah.
And my house was not at that time, it was a mess, and
Mhm.
I was a mess. And so letting people see me that way
Yes.
was the hardest thing I've ever done. So it was, yeah, it allowed me to understand that we don't need to come to Jesus fixed.
Yeah.
We don't. Sometimes we think that for us to step into that obedience, we need to have all the steps figured out. We need to have our clean lives, our faith that is tidy up. And that's not what the Lord is expecting from us. He's expecting us to take that step. And the step that I could take in that moment was letting people see me at my worst. Because I don't
Mhm.
think I've ever been more. I had nothing to give. And I'm the kind of person that I'm like, if I'm going to your house, I'm going to bring, like food. Like,
Yeah.
my husband's like, why are you bringing food? They didn't ask you to. And I'm like, well, I'm going to bring it because it's, I like doing this. And so he's like, no, like you have 10 minutes to be there and you're cooking. I'm like, yes, this will take 5 minutes. It's just protein balls. I just really, really fast. And so in that time, I had nothing to give, and sometimes we need to come to God with something to give when he's only asking for our obedience, which is to walk in the ways that he has set for us. And so, um, yeah, I'll shout out Hannah, who was one of my friends, and then Jennifer and Lilia. And so if you listen to this, you guys were so important during that time. I love you guys. So yeah.
You know, talking about not robbing someone of the blessing, puts these people in our lives for different reasons. And so he may actually have been speaking to that person saying, hey, I need
Yes.
you to go to Henny's house.
Yes. A
I
hundred
need you to
percent.
take her a meal. I just need you to go sit with her and talk to
Yes.
her.
Mhm.
And so if we're saying no, then we're
Yes.
actually saying no to God. Like
Yeah.
we're saying
Right.
no, we're denying what God has
Wow.
asked them to
Yeah.
do. And so it is like we've that's been a process for me too, learning
Mm-hmm.
to let people help and do things
Mm-hmm.
because it's someone else trying to bless you or
Yeah.
someone else trying to be obedient
Yes.
to God. And so when we do say
Yeah.
no,
It
it's
is.
robbing
And
them of
there's
that.
more at stake sometimes than we
Mhm.
think.
Yes,
We
it's
think
true.
for us it's just, oh, it's just a prayer. Or
Yeah.
it's just this. I remember this one time where um I was with this friend and they've been walking through infertility, and we were at Easter at Grace when it was at the Raymond.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember God putting in my heart to pray for her. It was so real. I was like, this is God. Like,
Yes.
when God's prompting you, you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
I know it's you, God. Why? And so I was like, I remember I was wearing Logan because he was a baby. And I was like, this is so, it was, how tight it was, those seats, like, it was so
Yes.
And it
uncomfortable. I'm
was
like,
hot.
it was
It was
so
so
hot.
hot.
We were
I
all
just heard
weird.
that you were wearing the baby at
Oh
Raymond
my
James
gosh. And it was
Stadium
Easter. So you're like in your
at
night.
Easter time. And you were sweating.
It was
Yeah.
loud, right?
Yes.
It was all the things. But it was like that thing that my heart was pounding. I'm like, ah. And I started giving all these excuses in my head, like, why would I do this? Blah, 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 blah. And I didn't pray for her. And I went home, and the heaviness of it was like, I'm so sorry. And I was disobedient because I needed to pray for her. And I remember texting her, and the whole thing, she was kind of like, I think there was a lot of like heaviness happening, when you're walking through infertility, there's so much. And it didn't go well. And I realized, I'm like, if I had prayed for her in that moment, maybe it would have been completely different. Fast forward a year, she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And I remember it's so funny because God told me specifically in that day that she was gonna get pregnant. And I think they've been walking through for maybe 7, 8 years, a long time.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be that person
Yeah.
that says like, after all the things that you walked through, yes, you're going to experience this. But it was so, and I told her to like, this is what God's saying, believe in Him. And then when she got pregnant, it was like, I need to trust the Lord.
Yeah.
Because we get in our head,
Me too.
when obedience comes, we're like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just,
Are you sure?
yes, yes, right. Like,
I always
imagine,
think we know better.
yeah,
Right?
We do.
right.
We do think we know better sometimes.
And it really doesn't make sense most of the time. But that's the point. Because if it did, then it was our own thinking. Because
Yes.
we're not, our thinking doesn't usually go to the nonsense. It goes to the analytical part, right? Like,
Yes.
our brains want to understand, put in boxes, this makes sense.
Mhm.
So when it doesn't make sense, we should take that, maybe not every time, but most times, might be the Lord
Yeah.
prompting us to do this. So yeah.
Going to prayer, we had talked about this in Huddle about Amos and how if he
Oh,
had
yes.
prayed, like they would have
Yes.
been destroyed in the
Yes.
Bible. And so, like, praying about something is
Mhm.
important. And
Yes.
so, if God's prompting us to pray for someone or something, then we definitely need to listen and do it because, it changes things.
It
Prayer
does.
changes things.
It does.
When you were in that difficult time, did you ever pray for yourself? Like, God, help me not feel
Oh,
like this?
Oh,
Yeah.
all the time. All the time. I will cry to him. Like,
Mhm.
um, it was not, how the Bible talks about sometimes you don't know what to pray, and the
Yeah.
Spirit gives you those
Yes.
moments. Like, there were moments where I had no strength really I didn't even know how to pray for. I just felt so lost. It just felt like, and I think about that time and it's just so foggy, and like, it was a confusing time because I couldn't understand how this was happening to me, and that, even that perspective is the perspective of not victory, but of like being, thinking of the word in Spanish, like, what's the word? You're defeated, right? Like, you're like, and so it does not allow you to take a step and say no. Like, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but He has given me a spirit of a sound mind,
Yeah.
power, right? And so the thing with struggle is that the words that
Mhm.
will escape your head. Your head is so filled with fear
Mhm.
and questions. At least for me, that was the truth. Like, and that I could not remember the word of God. Colossians says that when we read the word, it will dwell richly in us. And I think in it, what I needed in that time was for other people to remind me of that word because
Yes.
I had read the Bible, I was walking with God in this way before that moment, but it was buried under those
Yes.
thoughts, and so I needed people, and even my husband, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him because really he will be so intentional about he will speak life like you will be okay. This will get better. And you'll be like, you don't know that, because my husband is the one person I can be real with and tell him all the things that I really
Yes.
think. Um, but he believed that, and he was when I couldn't even take care of our baby, he will be there, doing it.
Yes.
Just like if you're not married and you're single and you're listening to this, choose wisely. Who you're marrying, be obedient in that. And if God is saying dish that relationship, and um, yeah,
It's true.
because in this moment, that's really important.
There was, I don't know if I read this or if I heard it somewhere, but them just talking about, how do I say this? Your breakthrough could be right around the corner if you
Mhm.
just don't give up.
Mm,
Like you don't know what's around the corner, kind of what you're saying. You don't know what God has planned on the other side,
yeah,
but you don't know if your breakthrough is right around the
right.
corner. You don't know if tomorrow is going to be the day where it just lifts
Yes,
and
it
that
is.
depression is gone.
Mm,
It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, but you don't know when that's going to be,
yeah,
but it could be.
you keep
You
walking
just
towards that.
keep
Yeah.
going. It could be right
Yeah.
around the corner. But
Yeah,
it's
and
what
you
God.
don't know either how God's gonna use this too,
Yes.
because before this, I didn't have a full understanding, and now when I sit with women and they share how they're feeling and they share where they're at, it's not only empathy, it's living,
Yes.
right? Experience of
I
like,
understand.
oh, I completely know how you feel. I
Yes.
know how that is like. I know how, hopelessness feels like, and that gives me a whole new perspective. And I see with women all the time that are like, I don't know what to do. This is not who I am, because that was part of it. Like I'm like, this is not who I am. I'm a happy, cheerful person. This is not me. And so to have that testimony, really, it changes everything for me. When I go back to seeing clients and being able to, kind of really know, like, this is how this feels. Sometimes I think we think that God will do things in an instant, right? Like that our prayer, it's going to change
Yeah.
things
Like
immediately in
you're
the moment,
immediately
right?
healed.
Right? Like this is it. And sometimes, that's the case for some
Mhm.
people, but sometimes we gotta walk through the valley of death, right? We gotta
Yes.
walk through it. And then on the other side, we can see what God was doing. And I think I needed to walk through this.
Yeah.
Um, because it really helped me see God in a completely new. I had never experienced God as a healer before, really, like never that part of God. I had seen him as my provider, as my father, but not as my healer. And that I cannot attribute me being out of there other than God's mercy, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that really speaks to, how you've seen God work through this.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. So you'd say one of the fruits
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of everything you went through during this would be you got to see him as your healer. That is
Yeah.
so
Yes.
cool.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What are some other ways that you've seen him move through this experience that you've had?
Um, I think when you are in a place of despair and complete hopelessness and you don't have anything else to go to, you understand why Jesus died on the cross. Like you understand why he had to do that, why he had to come down on earth and die for us, because that was and he when he says in the Bible talks about we don't have a priest that cannot identify with our pain or our what we go through, because he was tempted on everything. And for me to know that I was not alone during that time, it points to the cross, right? It really points back to what Jesus promised us on the cross after he conquered that he will send the Holy Spirit. Because I do think like even people coming to my house, that was the Holy Spirit prompting all of these people. And since then, even though I've always had like this thing for helping people, after that, it's even more like I take so seriously when someone tells me like I'm sad or I'm depressed or I'm struggling, I take it so seriously and how sometimes we say like I'm going to pray for you.
Mhm.
And life happens and then you don't pray. And like you were saying, it's so huge. So if I have friends and I have friends that have been like, I have been through this, and I think because I've been through it, they feel more comfortable telling me instead of seeing me like, oh, you're the therapist. You're going to pull all these things on me
Yeah.
and try to fix me. And then, now I experience this in a human level, right? Like I know what this feels like. So I can just sit with you and pray with you and just encourage you in a way that is not clinical. It's
Yeah.
not only these tools or these steps or this self-help book or whatever, but really um, understanding in a super deep level, in a cellular level, what it is
Yes.
to experience that. And then God has been prompting me to write a book for a long time. And I have like notes here about that and just sharing what it is to go to postpartum and depression and postpartum anxiety and depression from a therapeutic perspective and from a Christian perspective. And so maybe one day
Yes.
I'll write the book.
Yeah.
Yes, I
But right now
think
it's
you
like in
should.
notes.
You absolutely should. That would be good news for somebody else,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's great news that you're sharing it now
Yeah.
because it's something we never know when it's going to hit us, right? We never know when depression's going to
That's true.
hit. We don't know when anxiety's going to hit. It
Mhm.
just kind of happens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful that you can now pour into your clients on such a like your kindred spirits, like
Yeah.
exactly how they
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful
Yes.
blessing.
And I think sometimes we trust Jesus to heal us from cancer and heal us from, whatever physical sickness. But when it comes to emotional,
Mm-hmm.
it's like oh, we don't think that he can do it. Or we think that we should. We will never say, like, oh, I have cancer. I got this. I'm going to just get better.
Right.
And I think faith is huge, but you will go to doctor if they find a tumor, if they find you have a heart problem, whatever, you're going to go and you're going to make sure that you're following these steps. And I think when it comes to mental health and emotional health, we think that that's just the enemy and we need to just like fix it only in prayer and we don't talk about it, we just bring it to God. And it's a way of isolating, right? Because yes, we need to go to God and we need to go to each other. We don't have a problem saying like, hey, can you pray for me? I just got really bad news at the doctor. But then saying like, hey, can you pray for me? I have OCD or I have
Right.
whatever it is, like it tends to be, I don't know why it takes so much more for us to reach out and believe that God can actually heal us from that. It's like we're like, we need to live with this. This is our life now.
Yes.
So, yeah, trusting him with every part of our lives. I think that's what he
Physical,
wants
the
us.
emotional,
Emotional. Hmm.
all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's so
Yeah.
important. I'm so glad you've been sharing about it. Is
Yeah.
there anything else you want to share?
Before we wrap up, I have one more verse. Let me see if I can find it here. Um, I said that one, and I don't know if I cited this one, but it's Isaiah 43. I can't remember the verse, but it says, "The fire won't consume me," kind of like paraphrasing. "The waters won't drown me. I will not get burned up. He is my shield and protection." And just like cling to that word, knowing that He's your shield and protection. Because I think when we step into obedience with whatever it is, attacks start to happening because movement is happening, right? So you're moving towards something. I think sometimes, and I experienced this in my life, I'm like, oh, my life is so calm now. I'm like, what am I doing? Nothing. Well, that's why. Because when you're moving towards what God's telling you to do, there's gonna be resistance. And I always say, like, sometimes even with this mental health experiences, things get worse before they get better.
Mhm.
And if we just if we just make decisions based on what we see and how things are getting, we need our spiritual eyes to see like everything around me seems like no, this is not the right direction. But if you have the conviction that God's saying this is where you need to be moving, then you walk towards that. Then you continue to understand that He's your shield, He's your protection. You go through the fire, you go through the waters, but He's with you because hard is not the same as bad, right? And I think when you're in walking in obedience, things can get hard because there's going to be resistance. And well, like you were saying, sometimes that breakthrough, it's so close, and I think if the Israelites would have known that, they would have not been 40 years
Yes.
wandering through the desert. If they knew, we're literally, we just take a right and there's the promised land.
Right here.
And then they're like, no, we're just going to spend 40 more years in the desert because, so yeah. Thank you for having
So good. That was such a good message, Hannah. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun. So good.
Well, before we go, we're going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
So you've lived in Puerto Rico,
Yes.
Seattle,
Yes.
Florida. Have you lived anywhere else?
No, those
Okay.
are the places. Yeah.
What is your favorite thing about each place that you have lived?
So home, I will say the beach, the ocean is so beautiful, and the food back home, it's so good. And then from Seattle, it's just the mountains. I miss it so much here. We sometimes go to Date City, and my kids are like, "There are hills, Mom, there's mountains in Date City." I'm like, "No,
It's so flat here.
these are not mountains, okay?" But they're like, so every time we go, they're like, "Pull the windows down. This is amazing. Here we go." They love it. So I do miss the mountains a lot. And then Florida.
She's got to dig deep. She's got to dig deep.
You gotta dig deep here.
I'm still getting used to Florida for sure. But I will say the one thing is the friends that I've made, honestly. Like I cannot, when I moved here, I knew nobody. And I was like, I don't like it. Because like my husband, why did you make us move here? This makes no sense. God, please. God used crazy divine appointments that I could have not even planned, imagine, with random people in random places to bring me to where I am with community and friends. And it's just like, it's one of those, it makes me want to cry because it's one of those things I could have not imagined that God was going to bring people like this into my life when I moved here because it was very lonely, So, yeah. I'll find something about Florida eventually.
Yeah, that is.
No,
Yeah,
that's me here.
Yeah.
It's hard to leave
Sure.
the connections in the community. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, thank you so
Thank
much
you, guys.
for
This is so
sharing,
good.
being vulnerable.
You guys are awesome.
Your story is very important, and we know that it will bless someone else.
I
So
hope
thank
so.
you
I
so
really
much.
do. Yeah. Thank you.
Very
Thanks for listening. We are so glad you joined us.
We hope you'll tune in next week for another great episode.